This black card has a 50M offer for you.
Wow, my only offer's for your hand in marriage.
Yes.
A poor single man sat the wrong date table. Until the CEO offered $50 million, marry me or leave now. Marcus Chen checked his phone for the 5th time in as many minutes. 7:58 p.m. His date, arranged through a mutual friend, was supposed to meet him at 8. He smoothed down his jacket, the nicest one he owned, though the cuffs were starting to fray. The restaurant his friend had suggested, Lumiere, was far fancier than anywhere he'd normally go, but he'd scraped together enough for this one night. His daughter Emma deserved a chance at having a complete family again, and at 34, maybe it was time he stopped being alone. "Sir, your table is ready," the hostess said with a practiced smile. Marcus followed her through the dimly lit restaurant, past tables where people laughed over wine that probably cost more than his weekly grocery budget. She led him to a corner booth with a stunning view of the city skyline, candles flickering on white tablecloth. "Thank you," he said, settling into the leather seat. "Miss Victoria will be with you shortly," the hostess said before gliding away. Marcus frowned. His date's name was Michelle, but maybe she'd given a different name for the reservation? He checked his phone again, no messages. He'd wait. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. At 8:15, a woman appeared. But she wasn't the Michelle from the photos his friend had shown him. This woman was striking in a way that made Marcus forget to breathe. Sharp cheekbones, dark hair pulled back in an elegant twist, wearing a black dress that probably cost more than his monthly rent. She moved with the kind of confidence that came from owning rooms, not just entering them. "You're early," she said, sliding into the seat across from him. Her voice was cool, appraising. "I appreciate punctuality." Marcus opened his mouth to explain the mistake, but she was already signaling the waiter. "The 2015 Burgundy," she said without looking at the menu. "And we'll start with the oysters." The waiter nodded and vanished. She turned her attention to Marcus, her green eyes sharp as cut glass. "Let's not waste time with small talk. I've looked into your background. Single father, works as a software developer at a mid-tier company, drives a 2012 Honda, lives in a 2-bedroom apartment in Riverside. Modest debt, mostly student loans, clean record. No vices beyond occasionally buying your daughter too many books." Marcus felt his pulse quicken. "I'm sorry, I think your daughter is 8, Emma. Lost your wife 3 years ago to cancer. You've been raising her alone, turning down promotions that would require travel. Admirable, if financially unwise." A cold knot formed in Marcus's stomach. "How do you know all this? Who are you?" "Victoria Ashford," she said, as if the name should mean something. When his expression remained blank, one corner of her mouth lifted. "CEO of Ashford Industries. We handle about 40% of the cloud infrastructure in North America. You'd know us if you paid attention to tech industry news." "I'm more focused on bedtime stories than boardroom news," Marcus said, finding his voice. "Look, Miss Ashford, I think there's been a mistake. I'm supposed to be meeting someone else. Michelle Rodriguez. 29, works in marketing, enjoys hiking and wine tasting. Your friend set you up." Victoria leaned back as the waiter returned with wine, poured 2 glasses and disappeared again. "She's not coming." "What? I paid her $5,000 to give me this table, this time slot, and not ask questions." Marcus stared at her. "You bought my date? I bought her compliance. There's a difference." Victoria took a sip of wine, watching him over the rim. "You're wondering if you should leave. You're also wondering if I'm insane. The answer to both is probably, but hear me out first." Marcus should have left. Every instinct told him to stand up, apologize, and get out of whatever this was. But something in Victoria's eyes stopped him. Not coldness, though that was there, but something else. Desperation, maybe, or loneliness wearing an expensive mask. "I'm listening," he said carefully. Victoria set down her glass. "I need to get married. Specifically, I need to be married before my 38th birthday, which is in 6 weeks. Dating apps might be faster than stalking strangers." A flash of something, amusement, crossed her face. "My grandfather built Ashford Industries from nothing. When he died, he left 70% of the company's stock in a trust with certain conditions. I can't access it unless I'm married by 38. If I'm not, it gets divided among various cousins, most of whom would sell to our competitors within a year. That's insane. My grandfather was a traditionalist. He believed marriage created stability, responsibility. She said it without emotion, stating facts. I've spent 15 years building this company into what it is. I've sacrificed relationships, sleep, any semblance of a personal life. I'm not letting it go to my idiot's cousins because I didn't check a box on his antiquated list. So marry someone, anyone. Why me? Because most men in my circle would see this as an opportunity for leverage. They'd want control, board seats, decision-making power. They'd be parasites. Victoria leaned forward, candlelight casting shadows across her face. But you don't care about my company. You care about providing for your daughter, giving her a stable life. We have aligned interests, not competing ones. The oysters arrived. Neither of them touched them. You investigated me, Marcus said slowly. You know about Emma. What exactly are you proposing? Marriage, real in the legal sense, purely transactional in every other way. We'd need to live together. The trust requires cohabitation for at least a year. After that, quiet divorce, generous settlement for you. I'm offering $50 million. The number hung in the air between them like something physical. Marcus laughed, though it came out strangled. $50 million, tax-free, structured as a divorce settlement. Enough to secure Emma's future, pay for any college, buy a house, invest for retirement. You'd never have to worry about money again. And what would you get? Control of my company. The ability to continue the work I've built my entire adult life around. Victoria's voice remained steady, but Marcus caught something beneath it. Steel wrapped around vulnerability. I don't do relationships, Mr. Chen. I don't have time for them, and frankly, I don't have the temperament. But I can offer you a business arrangement that benefits us both. Marcus thought of Emma, how she'd outgrown her shoes again, and he'd waited until payday to replace them. How the school had suggested tutoring he couldn't afford. How he'd lain awake last night wondering if he'd saved enough for her braces in a few years. This is insane, he said. Yes. You don't know me. What if I'm secretly terrible? You're not. I've had you investigated for 3 weeks. I know about the time you drove 2 hours to get Emma to her best friend's birthday party when your car was making concerning noises. I know you volunteer to coach her soccer team despite knowing nothing about soccer. I know you read parenting books from the library because you're terrified of messing her up. Victoria's expression softened. Barely. You're a good father. That's rarer than you'd think. Emma would have to move, change schools. She'd attend the best private school in the state. I'd arrange it. She'd have questions. Kids aren't stupid. We'd tell her a version of the truth. That we met, decided to give a relationship a try, that adults sometimes make practical decisions. After the divorce, we'd share custody on paper while I remain minimally involved. I'm not proposing to be her mother, Mr. Chen. I'm proposing a solution to both our problems. Marcus picked up his wine glass, then set it down without drinking. His phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Patterson, his neighbor who was watching Emma. All good here. She beat me at Uno again. He smiled despite himself. You're a good person, Victoria said quietly. That's why this could work. You wouldn't try to exploit the situation. And I wouldn't make your life harder than it needs to be. Why does this feel like a business merger? Because it is. Victoria pulled out a folder from her bag. Of course she'd come prepared. And slid it across the table. Contract terms. You'd have your own lawyer review it, naturally. No prenup because this isn't a real marriage in the romantic sense. Separate bedrooms. Separate lives, mostly. We'd need to attend some functions together, maintain appearances for the trust requirements. Marcus opened the folder, scanning pages of legal language. The numbers were there, stark and real. 50 million. Emma's entire future, guaranteed. What if you meet someone? He asked. In the year we're married. I won't. But if I won't. Something in her voice made it final. That's not who I am. Marcus looked at this woman across from him. This stranger who'd bought his date and investigated his life and was offering him a fortune for a year of pretend. She was beautiful, brilliant, and apparently incapable of vulnerability. Except he'd caught glimpses of it. Tiny cracks in the armor. "This is the craziest thing anyone's ever asked me," he said. "Is that a no?" He thought of Emma. 8 years old, gap-toothed smile, obsessed with dinosaurs and convinced she could be a paleontologist astronaut. He thought of the life he could give her, the opportunities, the security. But he also thought of his late wife, Sarah, who'd believed in marrying for love, who'd made him promise, in those final difficult months, that he'd find happiness again someday. This wasn't happiness, this was a transaction. But maybe happiness could come later, built on a foundation of security instead of struggle. "I need to think about it," Marcus said finally. "I need to talk to Emma, in my own way. And I need to have a lawyer look at this." Victoria nodded, something like respect flickering across her face. "You have 1 week. After that I pursue other options." She stood, leaving the untouched oysters and half-finished wine. "Miss Ashford," Marcus called as she turned to leave. "Why me? Really?" Victoria paused. For a moment, her mask slipped completely, and Marcus saw exhaustion underneath. Years of it, bone deep. "Because when I watched you through your apartment window, before you noticed and closed the curtains, I saw you making dinosaur-shaped pancakes and doing terrible voice impressions. I saw someone who still believed joy was possible, even after loss." She smiled, sad and small. "I don't have that. But I thought, maybe it would be good for both of us. You'd get security. I'd get reminded what human beings are supposed to be like." Then she was gone, heels clicking across the restaurant floor. Marcus sat alone at the wrong table in a restaurant he couldn't afford, holding a contract worth $50 million and wondering if he'd just met a lonely CEO or a master manipulator. Maybe both. His phone buzzed again. "Emma, in a video from Mrs. Patterson, Daddy, when are you coming home? I want to show you my new drawing." Marcus smiled at his daughter's face and realized that whatever he decided, it would be for her. It always was.